Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Really appreciate you watching. New episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'd also like to, before I get started on the episode today, share that on this channel there will be posted a documentary film that I hope you check out. It's called Pros and Con Artists, The True Cost of COVID-19. And the subject is the COVID shutdowns that occurred in March 2020 in Gwinnett County, Georgia. We interview people in this area, and I think it's a good film. I hope you check it out. And if you don't live in my area, it still applies to what's going on or what happened in your community. So today I want to share with you an illuminating video, some excerpts from it, from a socialist. Her name is Jessica Burbank. This occurred at Brown University, October 2019. I'm assuming she's a student. This talk is entitled A New Direction for the U.S. Economy. So I'm going to share excerpts and then talk about them. Here we go.
People living in the United States, the wealthiest country on earth, are unhappy with their material conditions. We have more than enough resources to make everyone entirely comfortable, but under our current economic system, many people's most basic needs are not met.
This video is filled with stupid comments. So a few things I want to point out. The applause that she receives at the beginning of her talk is really quite subdued at the end of the talk, and presumably it's filled with a very receptive audience to the message of socialism. She says in this clip, apparently all people, she doesn't specify, so you would assume she believes that all people are unhappy with their material condition, or she wants you to think that all or most people are unhappy with their material condition. Is that true? She says it is. Who knows? But the thing that's interesting is she says there's more than enough resources because we're such a wealthy country that every citizen could be entirely comfortable. Well, what is entirely comfortable for you may be different for me. What I think she's getting at is entirely comfortable is what I think. And I think basic necessities are, as long as you have basic necessities, that's comfortable. That's what I think she's saying there. I just don't think she's claiming that there is absolute no scarcity of resources for everyone to have all that they can have. I think what she's saying is there's no scarcity of resources to make everyone comfortable by her definition. And she will explain later in the video how she thinks we get there.
The worker is paid 80 coins. They make 140 widgets with their own two hands, and then the owner sells these widgets and after labor costs makes 620 coins in a day. To make that money, what work did the owner do?
The owner did no work. None, as she says. So if your owner, this is the most egregious thing I think that's in the video, so we'll get early on the worst. The idea that a person puts all their life savings into a business such as a restaurant, takes the risk to succeed or fail, they work, they don't actually work. That 50, 60 hours a week they're putting into their business, that's not actually working. Their life savings doesn't represent their prior work. If you're the owner of, let's say, a large single owner, one person, privately held company, owns a huge company, the corporation that they're the sole shareholder of billions of dollars in revenue, let's say $50 billion in revenue. That person does no work. How does she know this? Where does she get this from? And so this false premise is the basis for the rest of the stupid comments that are made. It's just shocking that our education system, someone presumably Brown University, top university, would produce someone that thinks like this. And our public schools are instructing people to think like this.
To be productive, we need things. We need resources, tools, machinery, land, the means of production. A small group of people own almost all of the means of production. The rest of us who do not have them do not have the ability to be productive on our own accord.
So first off, state, your city, county, federal governments own quite a huge amount of resources. So we all, if we're citizens, we all are partially owners in these resources. Her assertion that all the resources are in the hands of just a few people and you'll never make it. You'll never make it. No one ever starts off without anything and makes a financial success out of themselves.
Fight for freedom. What if, instead of allowing private owners to control our resources and use our workers to make profits, we organize our economic system democratically? We agree that the primary purpose of the economy should be to meet our material wants and needs. We all have a say in how the resources are managed. We organize labor so that workers can elect their leaders and own the means of production.
I take this to mean private property is abolished and we can elect our leaders and they will make wise choices. Our current class of political leadership in Washington, for example, would you really trust them more than you would someone who has skin in the game, someone who has something to lose if the enterprise fails? This young woman doesn't seem to understand or care what happens if there's failure? Who makes the decisions to what to produce, how many to produce, and how to implement the things to keep this enterprise going? There's no plan for failure.
We utilize excess resources and excess labor power for innovation. We will not have liberty and justice until we have economic rights. Americans love liberty and justice until it is called socialism. The ideas that I just described are socialist. Socialism has been put in a box with the label bad on it so that people won't bother to look inside. But I looked inside that box and I found that the problem is not that people fundamentally disagree with socialist principles. The problem is that people have been taught to hate a word without ever defining it. You might notice that nothing I've said sounds like anything you've heard about socialism. It does not refer to centralized authoritarian control.
So, we're too dumb to understand. The vast majority of people are too dumb to understand what socialism is. And she's not talking about centralized planning. No, she's talking about small enterprises that are democratically vote for their leaders, and their leaders would not do anything wrong. They wouldn't make any mistakes. No, she's talking about centralized planning. That's what she's talking about. And there's no model for this anywhere in the world that's worked I've talked about this in another episode. There's the impractical nature of how do millions of people make millions of decisions every day about their lives, about what their wants and needs are. And how do these happen? Well, they happen by pricing. And this young lady just doesn't seem to have a clue about that or care.
All human beings were born on this planet as equals. No one person should own an entire natural resource and be able to personally profit off of extracting it. We can, instead, demand a vote to take public ownership of our resources. We can make electricity affordable and nationalize the energy grid. We can allocate economic gains to fund public infrastructure development. We can agree to transition to 100% renewable energy and apply these same concepts to solar, wind, or geothermal. On the front of labor, we can have 100% worker-owned businesses.
I didn't show this excerpt in the video, but she talks about wars, and I agree that many of our military inventions weren't necessary and were ill-advised. And the thing is, our leaders were democratically elected, and they were the ones who led us into these various conflicts. So what's going to be different? She's complaining about these wars were not necessary and so forth, but we're going to vote for leaders they'll never do these things. How will that work? In other words, she's just not saying anything new, not saying anything that would change the dynamics of how the United States or any country gets into wars when they have a democratically elected government.
Human progress does not happen when we creatively make more advanced luxuries to be enjoyed by the people at the top.
What is a luxury? It's different for you than it is for me. We all have different interests. So what does she mean when she says luxury? I deem it to be anything that is not a bare necessity is a luxury. It's hard to understand the mindset, but she's claiming that only a few people are able to afford luxuries, which is, I define that a little differently. So would you. But I don't think that's the way she looks at things.
We can organize our labor and resources however we want to. But we are told the tale that the economy is an autonomous entity. It regulates and controls itself. This is simply not true.
So how does Jessica Burbank, this young woman, suggest that goods and services that people want and need are supplied? How does that happen? There's no pricing in her world. She doesn't mention profit and loss. If the state owns the schools, the hospitals, the banks, the energy grid, as she says, food production restricts the production of luxury goods so we can produce basic necessities for everyone and so forth and so on, then how does this work? It's been tried many times throughout history. There's nothing new about this. It's been a dismal failure across the world for the people that live there, unless misery is a success, because that's what you end up with.
So then, how do we change our economic system? We have a new and better idea about what the purpose of our economy should be. We behave differently, redefine the norms, rewrite laws, make new policies, and make the change. Human beings have the capacity to act as a collective.
People act as a collective all the time. Counties own parks. So the collective in the county, they want parks. The county has parks. They operate them. The idea that everything has to be decided as a collective means that health care is rationed, education's rationed, your opportunities, you'll get what the majority say you'll get. When she says make the change, I think she's advocating that we vote. Well, that's what we do now, is we vote. And voters don't like socialism. And it's not because they're too dumb to understand it. She says earlier in this video that Americans love liberty and freedom. Well, what she's advocating for is to take that away. No private property. And who are these angels that will run these various enterprises and make the decisions? I don't see them in our politics. I don't see these angels. They're no different. Their interests are very much different than the owners of a business. Owners of a business, their primary duty is to their shareholders. They don't run businesses based on what the public will perceive as politically correct.
We can wait until our society destabilizes, or we can band together for a political revolution that revitalizes. I prefer revolution.
It's amazing. Her mindset is that there will be political destabilization due to free market economy and capitalism. There's really not much basis for this. That's not the cause of political destabilization. This has been predicted since Marx and Engels came up with their theories, the idea that the worker will rise up. And there's many things that she misses here. Do people really want their private property taken away from them? Abolishment of private property? There's no pricing. There would be no black market pop up where people could trade, or would that be illegal? There's no profits. And there's no losses. So you can't fail and you can't succeed. And then you end up, the economy, as she puts it, produces things that people don't need or want, or there's a lack of what people want or need. Who decides what comfort and luxury is? During this 16-minute talk, which at the end she got, the applause wasn't nearly as, there were a lot of people sitting on their hands, and these are presumably leftist college students, and they weren't crazy about what she was saying. The idea that when she says political revolution, I don't think she really means entirely this is done at the ballot box. Because a lot of political revolutions are initiated by force many, many times. I think she's talking about the state controlling everything, not these small democratic pockets. Because if you think about it, if you really believed in this, in the socialist economy, why would you not, and you think it would work in the United States, why wouldn't you try it in a county or a city or a state? Just try it there. See how that works. Well, that won't work because not everybody is involved. It has to be the entire United States of America that engages in this. You can't do it partially. You got to go all the way. That's the mindset. It's really, this is really an interesting look into the mindset of a socialist. At no point does she mention a model. This is a new idea that's never been tried before. It's just not. That's not accurate. This has been tried many, many, many times, and human nature being what it is, folks are intoxicated with power if they get control, and they're not going to make decisions that's in the best interest of everyone. they're going to make the best interest that they can maintain power in many cases. But aside from that, there's a practicality of how do millions of people get the things that they want and need. Well, they make millions of decisions, millions upon millions of decisions. And I think the socialist says, well, we're going to take those decisions away from you. And the majority will rule. So if you're in the minority, tough luck. So that is the thing in the United States that we do have, is there's protections for the minority. We have a judicial system. We have a supermajority clauses to prevent changes to the Constitution. And you have to have wide public support to make changes to the Constitution. And that's the way it was set up, to protect the minorities. And I don't think this is a concern of this young lady at all. So that's my episode today. It's a look into how socialists think on a very simple scale, and she actually thinks that this is very, very complicated. And it's hard to understand, and only a few people can understand it, and it's very demeaning. So I really appreciate you watching. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. New episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thanks for watching.